So this is a video I've wanted to make for a while, and I think it's a very important one. I felt some resistance because I don't consider myself to be an expert on the topic. However, I do think that my perspective is pretty unique. I've gone from being very skeptical. A few years ago, I wrote a blog post about how manifestation is just a bunch of baloney, and now I think it's pretty legit. I don't think my outlook's changed particularly. I'm still someone who considers themselves a relatively rational person. But it's just that my understanding of what manifestation is has changed a bit. And I think that this is a kind of video that could really help people. So the first thing we need to discuss is what actually matters when it comes to understanding anything in this world, because we can only understand so much and we are limited in our understanding. Things take years and years to internalize. So when it comes to manifestation, what is it that you actually need to understand? You need to understand what is actually going to impact you and what is going to be usable by you in your day-to-day life. If you see videos talking about vibration and quantum physics and you think, what? Then that's not for you. That's for somebody else. That might help somebody else's understanding of the whole process. It doesn't help me particularly. They are words that I might use, but in terms of having a deep understanding of what manifestation is, I don't find that important. I don't find that helpful. There's a good analogy in Abraham Hicks where they talk about it's like water from a tap. What matters for you is that you can turn on the tap and then you have water. You don't need to understand where the water's come from, where the pipes are, how it got there, how it was processed, because understanding that doesn't actually change the fact that when you turn the tap on, water comes out. And I also think we need to appreciate that within even the most scientific and rigid realms, there is mystery, and that is also incredibly important. We cannot understand everything, and that mystery is something that needs to be revered and respected and honored, not necessarily understood. So I think one of the things that got me from skeptic to believer sounds like a weird term, but skeptic to adopter maybe, is that I started to have more respect for the idea that I not only did not understand everything, but will never. Like, that is not possible. I'm never going to understand everything, and that's okay. And I think coming from this angle that everything needs to be understood in order to be used is like a form of grasping. It's like a control thing. I wanted everything that I internalized to be something that can be proven. And while obviously there is absolute use in life for things that can be proved, I think that if something is going to be useful for you in your day-to-day life, it doesn't necessarily matter whether it can be proven or even whether or not it's necessarily true. It's all about how you can use it, how you can benefit the world, how you can feel better, how you can become a more useful member of society, of the world. It's how you behave and how you act and how your actions ripple out into the world and the impact that you have. However, we must confront the elephant in the room, because if you are a rational person, you have probably thought the same things that I have, which is, why can't people manifest themselves out of their war-torn country? Why can't people manifest themselves out of famine? Like, isn't that a bit weird? Because surely they really want food. And this is where what I think probably differs from what a lot of other people think. Because I've seen I would go as far as to say disgusting comments on things like this, talk about how people didn't want it enough, or that they, weren't in the right vibration, what I consider to be nonsense. A lot of people might not. But the elephant in the room teaches us that it doesn't matter how much you want it. It doesn't matter how desperate you are for the change. That isn't the factor that impacts things. It's much easier to manifest yourself your dream tea towel than it is to manifest yourself into a safe situation, because we need to honor the people who are in terrible situations, and we also need to honor the people who want a promotion. We have to make sure that our definition of manifestation and the way we talk about manifestation is applicable in both of those situations. So we're going to redefine it. We are going to call it the art of getting out of your own way. And I'm going to chuck a little Marcus Aurelius quote in here that I really like. He said in Meditations, "Do not think that what is hard for you to master is humanly impossible. And if it is humanly possible, consider it to be within your reach." This, I think, is the crux of manifestation. Yes, you can think in vibrations and energies and but ultimately, I think it is about your own ability to accept where you are, to know who you are, and to be able to use the tools available to you to move forward and to be in the current moment with some form of contentment, even if that moment is horrible. And I think Stoicism is a very, very useful tool in manifestation, actually, because from contentment in your current situation, however bleak, I can't stress that enough. I'm not suggesting that if you are in a horrific situation, you need to be content, but you do need to accept where you are. That is going to be the first step. Whether or not you are wanting your dream house or whether you want a meal, you have to accept where you currently are, and you need to treat it with some form of reverence. And another useful tool at this point is meditation. Being in your body, not getting trapped in the anxieties of the future or the regrets of the past, but being here in the here and now in your body and seeing things for what they are. As humans, we are really into symbols and patterns, and we therefore might consider things that have been to be a predictor of what is to come. And that is a little bit of an illusion. So whatever the situation you would like to move into, manifestation is about considering how you and your habits and your history and your thought patterns and just your behavior patterns in general, how they might be impacting how you move forwards in your situation, which is why I call it the art of getting out of your own way. So manifestation from a rational perspective is being as content as you can be and as accepting as you can be of where you are right now in your current moment, in your current self. And then it is asking yourself what roadblocks you are putting in your own way. And this might take a long time to see, but here are some examples. You might think that you're not the kind of person who can do whatever it is that you're aiming towards. You might not have stepped into being the person who makes the decisions that need to be made or acts the way that they need to act in order to be where you want to be. You might, as soon as you consider an opportunity that feels exciting but also maybe a little bit out of your usual, in the unknown, you might immediately put up a wall and say, well, no, I couldn't because. You might make excuses. No, that would be too expensive. No, because I would miss this. It's coming up with reasons why you can't have what you want. And you'll find that your brain sometimes does this instinctively. If someone was to offer you your absolute dream right now, your brain, because it is trying to protect you, it's not going to come up with reasons why you should do it, because it is going to respond to your instinct to be slightly afraid. It wants to protect you. It's going to say something like, no, because you're going to miss your home. No, because what if it all goes wrong? And these are going to be roadblocks that stop you from creating that future that you would like to create. Another one I see a lot is thinking that money and financial success is the only way to get to where you want to be. So whatever it is that you're trying to achieve, because we live in a very financially fueled world, you are very likely to consider money to be your path, to be your route. But there are lots of different ways that you can get to where you want to be. You could win a competition. You could make a connection that gets you to where you want to be. Not everything is money. Yes, a lot of things are money, absolutely. But there are ways that you can get what you want that aren't necessarily fueled by money. I think it's also really easy to blame other people or your circumstances for where you are. And I am absolutely not suggesting that people are to blame for their terrible circumstances, but any responsibility that is on you, you need to hold, because it does you no favors to feel like you are the victim. Even if you literally are the victim, you need to step out of that feeling like a victim, because you need to feel empowered in order to take the steps to get you to where you want to be. So the question is, how do you get in your own way in your day-to-day life, in your thought processes, in your patterns? How do you get in your own way? And how can you maybe start to unravel that and unpick that? And that is where I think minimalism is actually really useful, because you can sort of study your own behavior through your space, through your items, and you can also create space for what it is that you are moving towards. That's where I think minimalism and manifestation overlap a little. And I think regardless of your situation, if you would like to move into a different situation, an improved situation, if you'd like to be a slightly more refined version of yourself while still being compassionate and loving and accepting of the person you are today, that is ultimately the secret. And that is what I think manifestation is. And then once you get out of your own way, once you can see the internal roadblocks that you've had, you can better see the opportunities that are available to you. You can have more courage to make the opportunities exist that you want to exist. And that is how we step forwards into something new, into something better, into something that we feel we'd like to guide our timeline, our story towards. But I'd also really like to know, what you think. I like to think about it from a psychological perspective because I find that useful. And I think knowing the angle that you find easy to implement is going to be the most useful for you. But then I feel like even using the word manifestation might not be accurate for some people because it's so far removed from what I hear a lot of other people talking about. So anyway, that was manifestation for rational people. Tell me what you think, please, because this is really interesting. It's a very involved topic and I've only scratched the surface really, but also I think that's all you need. Also, I've started a mailing list. So I'll put the link in the description. And if you want to hear from me every Monday, just a little thought for the week, then I'll see you in your inbox. And if not, then I shall see you in the next video. Sending lots of love. Bye-bye.